16th of February 2014. We are in ashram and Narad with us. We would like to ask you, Narad, how was your trip to St. Petersburg last summer when we have meeting, I mean Russian sadhaks, in 15th of August?
Yes, it was an easy trip, and the only strange thing was the visa, because then we had to rush to different buildings to get. You only have 2-week visa. That's all they give, not 3-month or 6-month. 2 weeks, and I was there for 2 weeks. So Ritam had to drive all around, and we got the visa the same night I arrived. And then I stayed with a very interesting family, you know, Maria and her daughter, and I guess Yuri is her husband. I stayed with them for a couple of days before I came out to this, what's it called again?
The name of this place is Berezhok. It's, I think, about 400 kilometers from St. Petersburg.
It was very beautiful, a beautiful area.
And beautiful nature.
Yes.
And there were a lot of flowers, and it was very interesting because Narad told us about the spiritual significance of flowers. And we were really happy and pleased to have this conversation and to have this time together with Narad.
Thank you.
And how did you find this event? Because it's...
I found many, many sincere people, and a little mixed group with some other people, but the people who have become close to me have become very close to my soul, and there were many of them, and it was a very unique experience for me. My second trip to Russia, the first trip was when we were on a ship, and we stopped for 3 days in St. Petersburg. And I was met by Ritam and Sergei, who is now in Aurobindo, and you know, the photographer and cinematographer. We were taken to a small flat after bus and tram and everything to get there, and it was one of the old Khrushchev buildings with 7 locks on every door and 1 little light bulb. It was very unique. And then we sat around, Mary Helen and myself and about 7 of Mother's disciples, and we talked for so long, and all this food was in front of us, and we didn't realize that everybody was starving because we weren't hungry. And everybody started going like this, and we got the message, and then we all ate together. But that was my first experience of St. Petersburg. Went to the Hermitage, for almost 2 days, and then to the Summer Palace.
Ah, Summer Palace, it means...
that was all gold. And
how do you call it?
It was the Tsar's summer residence.
Yeah, Peterkov.
Huh?
Peterkov.
Yeah, maybe
Peterkov.
Maybe
it's
Peterhof.
The name of this place.
Maybe Peterhof, yes.
Yeah.
And that was very beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to tell me about what you're doing with the flowers.
For me it's really something special because actually I like flowers very much. And when I found out that the mother gave the name to the flowers, and I started to read it, and then I decided to translate this book from English into Russian. And also I was not quite satisfied with my opinion about these pictures of flowers, because in my opinion it's a little bit background, too dark. That's why I tried to make my own pictures, And what is also interesting, I tried to find pictures of some flowers in internet, because in Russia we don't have too much flowers. I mean, because all these flowers mostly from warm, even hot, tropical climate. Yeah. And I discovered a very interesting thing. In my opinion, when people like flowers, and they also can feel this vibration. Maybe they don't know how it calls, but when you can see their pictures, you exactly feel this vibration from their pictures, what mother gave, what this name of what mother feels. And I was really very surprised, and I decided that beauty, if you are interested in beauty and you love it, that beauty and flowers are open to you, and you can feel it. It doesn't matter if you know it or not. You can just have this contact. That's why, and from this, I realize that flowers are very sensitive. They feel your attitude towards them, and they give you the same feeling, the same attitude, the same love. That is, and I was really very surprised in good way, and because before, actually, when I was here in Pondi, I went to your home choir, but I don't know why, I didn't know that you are interested in flowers. And when we met in this place, Berezhok, I was really very happy and surprised, because you told us a lot about flowers and the spiritual meaning, and I also liked very much your great idea about this new book about flowers, because I really think it's a great idea with these colors, and it should be pocket size. It's really great. That is.
Well, Mother said, and she often, without speaking, gave us a flower instead of saying something to us, because she said the flower could communicate her force directly, and if she spoke to us, it would go through the mind first and then into us. So the flower was the medium that she used to convey whatever we needed. And the flower in history has been associated with that too. In Victorian England, they made bouquets from the lover to the loved one, and a rose meant something and a violet meant something else. And they were kind of secret things, but look at the level to which Mother has raised it. Mm. So what are you working on now? Do you work in Photoshop? Or do you?
With flowers, you mean, with pictures?
Or you just try to keep them natural?
Actually, I try to keep them natural, but sometimes I think it's possible to work a little bit in Photoshop, but a little bit.
I agree.
In order not to, how to say, remove, I mean, to keep this beauty, natural beauty. Maybe just some points. Yes. But it should be, in my opinion, it should be natural. It should be like it is.
Good. Well, I look forward to working together with you.
Me too.
On the new book.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Sumedha, and we're over here in the ashram on Sunday, and we're talking to Narad. What brought you to the ashram, Narad?
Oh, I have to go way back for that. I was studying in New York City on a scholarship by a Metropolitan Opera singer, and I was studying for the Metropolitan Opera, but I had many unanswered questions in my soul. And one day I was returning from California, and I met a man, most beautiful person I'd ever met. His name was Pandit Sinha, and he was on the same bus going back to New York. And I said, "May I sit with you?" And he said, "Surely." And we talked and talked and talked. And then at one point he said, "Now I have to sleep." And in 1 second he was out. And I said, "Wow, that's really special." So I got back to New York City with him, and I attended his classes for many, many months. And one day he said to me, "Would you like to continue your musical studies at Shantiniketan?" I said, "Well, that would be wonderful." He said, "All right." He said, "I'll take care of all expenses, but you'll have to pay your passage." Well, my family was totally against anything from the East, so I couldn't ask them for any help. And I worked in landscaping about 10 hours a day and then 6 hours at night in a metal shop on a drill press, saving up all the money I could. And finally had enough, and he was going out to California, so he said, you follow me out. And I went out, and week after week passed. My money was dwindling, and he was with some wealthy ladies in Riverside, California, and he comes to me one day and he says, "Everything has fallen through. If you really want to do yoga, practice samatha and go back to your parents." And, you know, I was only 22 years old. And something rose up in me and said, "No, I am going to India." In a day or two, I met this most wonderful person, Dr. Judith Tyberg, who was given the name Jyoti Priya by Sri Aurobindo. Jyoti Priya, I should tell you a little about. At the age of 19, she was, her family were Theosophists, and at that age she said, "I want to go to India to find the secret of the Vedas." And her family gave her permission. So she went to Benares and started meeting with all the swamis and the gurus there. And they told her, there is really nothing in the Vedas. These are kind of fables. So she was about to leave. And that evening before leaving, a man comes up to her and he says, "I hear you're searching for the secret of the Vedas." And he hands her a typewritten copy of Sri Aurobindo's Secret of the Vedas. And she went immediately to the ashram. Sri Aurobindo gave her her name. Mother embraced her, and she went back to form the first Sri Aurobindo Center in America, the East-West Cultural Center. So that day I met Jyoti Priya, and it was an extraordinary meeting because she said, "Oh, you are meant to go to Mother. Give me a sample of your handwriting, and I'll need a photo also." In those days you had to give both, handwriting and photo. And she sent these off to Mother, and Mother sent a telegram back very quickly, and the telegram said, "Tell him he may come and stay as long as he likes." So that was my first contact.
How old were you when you came?
I had just turned 23.
Can you tell us a little bit about what the ashram was like when you first came?
It was very, very quiet. In the evening, you could go out. There were no cars. There were no bicycles. If you met two people walking along the beach, that would be a lot of people in those days. So we used to walk. Purani would stand outside the ashram gate with his shirt off and his thread. Satprem would walk along the beach. Others would be walking along the beach, and you'd meet them. And it was a family. We were all so close. I was embraced as one of them, just being a kid, knowing nothing at all. But I remember Jyoti Priya telling me, Prithvi Singh is going to take you under his wing. And he did. And I stayed with his family for a while. I originally was met by Dayabai and put up in what was called then Parc Charbon, which is now the Park Guest House. And all newcomers went there. And of course, the story of my getting here is not so easy to tell. It wasn't an easy trip.
You want to tell us?
It's a difficult journey. Well, I got on a Japanese freighter, and they were taking the route around Alaska, and we ran into a typhoon. It was a huge freighter, and the deck was covered with redwood logs that were that big around and 200 feet long. And when the typhoon hit, I watched them break off like toothpicks into the sea. The captain and his officers were up in the captain's quarters on the top deck, and he asked me to come up because he wanted to tell me something. And he said, 1 degree more and we capsize. And all the officers were on their knees. I believe they were Shintos, and they were all praying. And I said to him, we can't capsize, I'm going to Mother. So I got to Japan and had the first experience of that eternal beauty of the Japanese people and the Japanese landscape.
You were 23 and you decided to leave everything to come to stay in the ashram.
Yes.
And you never met the mother, but you'd heard of her.
No, I hadn't heard of her until Jyoti Priya.
So what made you leave
In
everything?
Pandit Sinha's evenings, there was one Jewish man, and he said, oh yes, I know Sri Aurobindo. He's the one who writes 10 words when he could have said it with 1. That was the only time I heard Sri Aurobindo's name. I never heard Mother's name. And yet, the moment Jyoti Priya said, you're meant to go to Mother, I knew it. I mean, I knew it here. I didn't know anything here. So, I'm in Japan, and it was 2 weeks before another ship, a French ship, left. So I had the opportunity to see the great Kamakura Buddha. I had the opportunities to see some of the gardens of Japan, and the beauty, the eternal beauty of this country. And I got on the French ship, put down in the hold in the lowest part, which was about maybe 35 to 40 degrees centigrade at that point, and the ship doesn't leave. Half an hour goes by, 1 hour goes by, it doesn't leave. And we're all sweating down there, and suddenly my name is called. Come up to the deck. And I come up, and the Japanese officers are there, and they say, you did not get the papers signed to leave Japan, so we are deporting you. You're going back to Japan. And these French guys said, we can stow you away here, we can stow you away. And I just said, Mother wants me to have this experience, so I have to get off. And I got off the ship, and a man was waiting to meet me, how everything she had arranged, incredible. And he took me to his home, and I stayed with them and ate with them. And one day before I left, he said, because he had been so kind to me, I couldn't refuse him. He said, "I want you to come and hear this orchestra of children, and I want you to sing for them." So I said, "All right, I'll do it." And we went there, and this orchestra of about 60 young children, maybe 13 to 17, was going to play for me, and they were all blind. And it was one of the most beautiful orchestras I've ever heard. And I sang for them. Well, to wind up this story, I finally got a plane. A friend helped me from the States. I got a flight to Chennai. I had a pair of broken chappals, 2 shirts and 1 pair of pants, and 10 rupees. And the bus from Madras in that time to Pondicherry was 3 rupees. So I landed here with 7 rupees. And very soon after, I met Mother. And that can be for another time. Thank you. I am here with Natalia from Moscow, and we have met many times in the days that she has been here. Natalia, how did you first hear about Mother?
Actually, I was 17, and I was in kind of crisis, you know, my teens was...
Everybody's in crisis at 17, right?
Yes, so, and my father, he was practicing, trying to practice yoga of Aurobindo for about maybe 20 years already, but he never talked to me about that. Yeah, so, and when I was 17, he understood that maybe something went wrong, and maybe he could help me somehow. So he presented me the book of Satprem, the
Adventure of
Consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And before I even read this book, I just saw the picture of Sri Aurobindo and the name on the book. So, and suddenly I just realized that this is my guru. It was kind of intense experience even before I read it. So that's how I
And then after
met.
that, did your father talk to you a bit about the yoga?
Yes, but we're kind of, we're really different. We have a different point of view on everything. And actually, the yoga also has different meanings for us.
So then when did you decide to come to the ashram?
I think in half a year I had the opportunity to come here. So my friend invited me to join him in this trip. So I was so happy and so excited.
What year was that?
Huh?
This year?
No,
this was some years ago.
It was 6 years ago.
6 years ago.
Yeah, so first time I came here 6 years ago.
And what did you feel when you came to the samadhi?
It was... I even can't express it because suddenly I just realized that I really belong to this place, and I shouldn't go back, come back. Yeah, that was quite intense experience. But then I had to come back. But at this time I remember it very, very well.
So it was 6 years before you came back again?
No.
You came back,
I came back
frequently?
Every year,
Every year?
except last year. Yeah, so it's my 5th time I'm in
I
Pondicherry.
Wonderful, wonderful. And now you will go back to Moscow, or you maybe are going to stay a little longer?
Yeah, I'd like to stay a bit longer. We're discussing our possibility to change the tickets even. So, yeah, and actually it's the first time I came for such a long period, 2 months. For me it's first time, because I finished my studies, so I'm more free now.
Wonderful. And let me ask you about your family now, because that's always a question for young people. Your father is still alive?
Yeah.
And he's still attempting to, or practicing the integral yoga?
Yes, that's
And do you
true.
have any dialogue with him
Mm.
now? Has it changed at all?
Actually, we haven't such a dialogue. He never came here, so he's really happy for me that
Good.
I'm here. But we're not so close, and we don't discuss yoga and spiritual path.
Okay. So you will go back, and when will you return?
I hope in August. I hope
For a
so.
longer period, or
For a month, maybe.
for a month? Good, good. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Natalia.
Thank you.
I'm here with Alexey from Russia, and we have been doing a lot of things together in these interviews with disciples and devotees, and our other program, Sri Aurobindo Ashram, the early years. Alexey is from Russia, and how did you first hear of Sri Aurobindo and Mother?
It was quite long ago. When I was 13 years old, somebody brought me the book, actually to my father.
What
It's
book?
by chance.
What book?
Sri Aurobindo's Adventure of Consciousness.
Adventure of Consciousness.
Of course. Yeah, when I read it, and after that, all my paradigm or all my thinking was changing.
At 13?
Yes. I know, like, I didn't understand everything what I read, but it was very, for me, like, revelation, I would say.
And your family, what background, religious background?
No,
did they-
nothing at all.
Nothing at all?
No.
Oh, so you were rather free.
Yeah, in Soviet Union, yeah. It was exactly after the Soviet Union was collapsed. So all these things like yogas and martial arts came from the East,
Uh-huh.
and it was too many things to choose. But for me, it was only
Because everything opened up after
Yeah,
the
yeah.
collapse of communism. And when did you first come to the ashram?
2011. Yeah, I had opportunity only for after a long time because I didn't have.
And you've been staying in Auroville, haven't you, for a while?
Yeah, I came always to and stay in Aurobindo for 2, 3, 4 months for the
Oh.
last 3 years.
I see.
I worked there and
And what work
Visiting.
did you do?
gardening in Mandir garden and doing some work in Savitri Bhavan the last 2 years, but this year now I work with the books to convert. Okay.
Do you have any plans to stay longer?
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
thinking about it, but no, I could say anything now. I couldn't.
No. Mhm.
I may ask you a question.
Yes, you may. You certainly may ask me.
Yeah, would you tell us about these earlier sadhaks? Like you told us about Aurobindo, Basu,
Yes.
because I think it's very important to record it, what you say as in Om choir.
Oh, I see. Well, that may take some time, but perhaps I can do one tonight.
Mm.
I'll tell you a bit about my beautiful relationship with Nolini. Nolini was my guide for many, many years. I have correspondence from him when I was quite young yet, and he would write to me as he would write to someone of his own age. It amazed me. And in one letter he says, "Mother was wondering what was happening in New York City, and you've explained it perfectly. Now I've told her." What did I know? But all through my life, he has been a guide to me. He and Aurobindo Basu. So I'll tell you 3 experiences with Nolini. One of them was similar to that of Aurobindo Basu. It was a period of 2 weeks in which he came to me every night, and for hour after hour he would be teaching me. And what, only my soul knows. I have no recollection of anything up here. In fact, I went to him and I said, "You know, you're coming to me every night all these weeks." I said, "Could you tell me something?" "Oh, maybe it's your own soul." And he just brushed it off like that, wouldn't comment at all. The second experience was when things were very difficult in Aurobindo. Very little food, intense heat, sometimes no water, often no electricity. And one day I came in and I was exhausted. I mean, I didn't know how I could take the next step. And I went into his room. At that time I was still called Richard. And I said to him, "Nolini, I need my batteries recharged." And he put his hands on top of my head. Both hands, I remember. And he said, "They are recharged." And I could have floated out of the room. I felt such power in me. And Anima, who was his secretary at that time, started singing a little song. "Recharged, recharged, recharged, recharged." The last experience and the most extraordinary experience. I went to him with Mary Helen on my birthday, and we presented him with a tray of plumeria flowers, 100 different colors and shapes. And he was so delighted, and he said, "Anima, be sure they get the tray back, put everything," and so he's telling her all these things. Now I had written him a 2-page letter about the difficulties in Aurobindo and what we were facing, the human difficulties also, because there were many. He said, "I have read your letter." And then he said, "It need not be like that. Mother is trying 1,000 different ways." Then he became very quiet. He looked at Mary Helen and he said, "Your body." And then he pointed to me and he said, "And your body." And then he pointed to himself and he said, "And my body. They are all her body. She has put a part of herself into each of us, truly. We are her body. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Shantanu Verma. I'm from India, Madhya Pradesh, and I've spent from the age of 2. I've been in Pondicherry.
From the age of 2.
And this is Narad. Tell us about yourself.
And so tell us about your schooling in the ashram.
Oh, I was lucky to get admission in the ashram school from the kindergarten. My elder sister, who's a year and a half older than me, had applied but she did not get.
Oh.
But I was lucky to get from the first year of the kindergarten, from the age of 3. And since then till the end, it was an amazing experience. Even though I have not seen much outside, I could be sure since the beginning that this was my place. And there's nothing like it in the whole world. I can be sure about it.
You had some special teachers also. Tell us about some of them.
Lots of special teachers. I don't think I'll name any now. But yeah, all teachers were very special in a different way. And a beautiful experience working. We could work individually with many of the teachers, as in our school we have small classes and a lot of interaction with teachers. So it was a very beautiful experience with each
Were you
one.
part of the free progress system?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So in the free progress system, it used to be there many years earlier before me as a student. Then it was stopped for some reason, and then it was started again with our batch.
Oh.
And so we were just 7 students, 7 teachers, and as an experiment. And it was in the room number 7, so it was called Arc-en-Ciel, the rainbow.
The rainbow.
And so it was something totally new for us, as well as for some of the teachers, because some of them had been there earlier, but some who were new had not seen it before. And so we were all ready to experiment something new. And
Well, what was new about it?
what was new was that we did away with the regular timetable. There was no timetable, and we tried to find what each student has in him to discover and to bring out, and there was total freedom to choose what we want to do and how we want to do it, with whom we want to do it, which didn't exist earlier, at least in our experience.
But it was Mother who wanted this free progress
Yes.
system to be done.
Yes, and it was, from what I've heard, it was done earlier, but due to various practical circumstances, it was stopped. And
Was Tanmay still around when you?
yes,
I see.
actually, he was the one who pursued it with the committee, and he made it happen. Actually, he kept promising us, and then finally, he was the one who revived the free progress.
I see. And when you graduated, you chose to stay here.
Yes,
And what do you do now?
I was teaching in the ashram school. I taught for almost 10 years.
What did you teach?
I taught, I was mainly a science student, maths, physics, chemistry. But even in the higher course, towards the end, I realized that there is so much more than just doing science. Instead of being just a science student, I should try and explore the other subjects also, and not just as subjects but as parts of one whole, so that it's no longer science and art separate, or English and French separate, but that everything is part of one. So then I spoke to some of the other teachers and even the students, and I was new as a teacher, but they were open to this idea that maybe you should try to do something which is not, limited to one subject, So I've taught maths, physics, chemistry, but also poetry and French also, which was not. And also they needed someone at different times for different subjects. There was at times a crisis of teachers for a short period of time. So over the years I have taught many subjects, and I was lucky because I was able to see how the different subjects are interrelated and they're not, isolated. So I'm trying to work out something, to start something new, which is an integral kind of education in all its aspects, which is not divided into subjects. I'm still working on it myself. I've not spoken about it to anyone.
So we must talk one day about Oro University.
Yes.
Which was founded by H.P. Rama, and the ideal is the ideal of education as put forth by Mother and Sri Aurobindo. So it's a wonderful thing you're doing. Thank you, Shantanu.
Thank you, Sri.